Good morning, everybody. I'm Alessia Pin, PhD student at the University of Trieste and member of the VPHi Student Committee. As part of the Student Committee, we are involved in the organization of different activities as the organization of the summer school, dissemination, and organization of keynote lecture webinars. Today, I have the pleasure to introduce Luca Emili. He is the founder of and CEO of InSilicoTrials Technologies. He has a strong passion for technology and he's focused on the development of the company for the definition of partnership with research centers, hospital and pharma and medical devices companies, and the development of new innovative technologies and services. Today, the webinar that he will present is focused on how modeling and simulation combined with the changing regulation can accelerate the development and approval of new drugs and medical devices. New regulation in Europe, guidance and initiative from the US combined with the availability and of validating models are defining a new way to innovate in the life sciences. We will see how a combination of regulation, technology, and science is necessary to proceed in this pathway. So now I'll give the floor to Luca Emili.
Thank you, Alessia, and thank you for inviting me to give this speech. I'm very happy to have the opportunity to talk about how modeling simulation is going to impact, is really impacting the development of new drugs and medical devices. So I have a presentation. I will share my screen so we can jump into the slides. So we started some years ago from a basic consideration. There are industries like automotive, engineering, aeronautics, and appliances where the use of modeling simulation is the fundamental aspect of the development of new products. So 100% of new cars, 100% of new airplanes are developed using modeling simulation. But in the healthcare industry, the story is completely different. So there is a underuse of this approach for many reasons that we'll try to investigate and find out how it's possible to change this trajectory. So coming from experiences in different areas like cybersecurity, development of traditional clinical trial, we decided to start this project called InSilicoTrials. That is a platform for the modeling and simulation in a pharma and medical device area for the creation of products, with the target to reduce time and cost in something that is quite expensive and take a lot of time now, and leveraging advanced technology also at the point of care. So the idea we have is that modeling simulation can really be applied on many topics and in different moments of development of products, and also in the use in daily care. So just a couple of words about our vision and mission. We are targeting the democratization of modeling simulation. So what we're doing in general is focused on the increased use of this technology, making it easier to use. So make it available to a higher number of people, not only to the very expert of this technology, as many times it is. So we are driving this technology access and technology transfer to what the researchers are developing from companies using the platform, where basically we are leveraging these three pillars. So regulation, science, and technology. We are a member of the Avicenne Alliance, which is the Association for Predictive Medicine, and we are working with regulators like FDA and EMA on this topic, but we will see this later on. So this is the traction we had in until today. So we started a project in 2016, then in 2017 we became a member of the EMA cybersecurity group. We started to work with Microsoft, ANSYS, and we started Pharma division in September last year, and in 2018 we have acquired a company called Conself. We'll talk about it later on, and we start some partnership like Combiomed, F3, that is a network for pediatric research, and also we have run a very interesting, very successful session at VPH 2019-18 in Saragossa. So why the potential for modeling simulation in these two industry is very important? Because we have to consider that worldwide, the number of pharma companies and biotech is incredible. We are talking about more than 23,000 companies in the world investing something like $58 billion yearly for their R&D. And it's the same number that we could see in the medical device, where we have more, just in US, than 26,000 companies that are investing something like $15 billion per year in a process that, as you can see here from this graph developed by FDA, touch different aspects, so from discovery and ideation to post-market monitoring. And what is interesting is that in many of these areas, modeling simulation can have a role. And while we talk about these numbers, so 23,000 here, more than 26,000 only in US, we have to think about that a lot of mid and little-sized companies that don't have the knowledge, the capability, the team to use something that is complex and require a lot of knowledge as modeling simulation in the traditional way. So they are at the moment not benefiting from this kind of procedures and technology, while they anyway have to go through this pathway because the approval of a medical device of a very big company is the same of a little one. In this process, where there is a significant pain linked to cost and time in the modeling simulation, in the development of product, the modeling simulation started to be one word that Dr. Scott Gottlieb, commissioner of FDA, started to spread through different communication. So the idea to use something that can help company in their R&D, but also potentially in the regulatory approval, is an element that could let company to reduce this to very significant pain, time to develop a new product and cost to make it. And when we talk about time and cost, we mean years and a lot of millions of dollars or euro that need to be invested. Also, thanks to FDA, we have a very nice representation on where you could use simulation in this case example of development of medical device. So you could use it to simulate the device, you can simulate the anatomy, you can simulate physiology, chemical toxicology, something now is more and more linked also to the use of AI, but it's very important to say that AI could find in modeling simulation a great background to start to be applied. We're talking about simulation in a 3D printed device or simulation itself that can be a device, as it has been approved in the last month by FDA, or a simulation that is embedded in a specific device, up to simulation, and this is quite innovative, of an entire clinical trial for imaging system. So you can see different scenario, different context, but what is very interesting is that these elements are able to create digital evidences in place of clinical evidence. So let's compare what's the normal activity done, for example, if you have to evaluate the MRI safety of an implantable medical device. So you go to the MRI machine, you're going to use an animal, in this case a pig, you position the medical device on the pigs, you go under MRI, you measure heating, and you have a lot of aspects, a lot of elements that require time and cost a lot of money. Once we go to modeling, we are able to model the environment. So to lead the model, to lead the pig or the phantom of a human body, and then to simulate the MRI scan. We're going to see later on an example with a project we are working on with FDA and ANSYS, but we move from something that would require weeks or months to be developed, and without mentioning different experiments that would require different animals, up to something that would require, once it's set and launched, one activity that lasts for a couple of hours. This is a pathway that has been followed by Medtronic for a specific pacemaker, and where no clinical trial has been required for the evaluation of MRI compatibility. So where we can apply the modeling simulation in healthcare, you can see here different examples that will go from orthopedics, spine correction, stent, valve, but also the impact of electronic device in terms of electromagnetic safety towards in this case, not patient, but the user. So with all this incredible opportunity, we can see that there is a forecast, and I really like to mention again FDA, that having internally the significant division for medical device is doing not only approval, but also creating a lot of science and research on how to use modeling simulation in the development of products. And they have released this very interesting forecast, where the use of computer today is quite limited in the creation of evidence, but in the future, about 0.5% of the evidences needed for the approval will be, or also the development in different stage of a product will be created by virtual patient and computer simulation combined, with a significant reduction of clinical trial, animal use, and batch as well. So what is the concept of the so-called in silico clinical trial? We need to put together different components. So we start from anatomy, physiology, combined with use condition, because of course, if you are looking for a test of a patient that is going to have a hip implant or a knee surgery, it's important to see how not only I'm going to provide this device to the patient, but how the lifestyle of the patient is going to impact on the specific device in terms of stress, etc. And as the length of the activity in the lifetime of people is becoming bigger and bigger, we're not limiting significant implant only to someone that will do just some walk, but we will have different conditions to consider. Of course, we have to develop the model that considers the physics of the device, and all these elements would be the factor that will determine what are the boundary, constraint, and target of the in silico clinical trial. So of course, we will have some element that will be variable, like geometry, material, load cases on a specific device. Other element that will be linked to uncertainty that will be evaluated in empirical ways, stochastics, or using Bayesian method. Combining all these elements, we will go in an environment where the creation of the model will, of course, need maturity. So we will need to use this in silico clinical trial while we're doing the traditional clinical trial activity in a way that the clinical evidence can be compared with the digital evidence, optimizing the model, creating a model that is more mature, creating a model that receives feedback on and on, with the opportunity to increase part of the digital evidences that take place of traditional clinical evidence in the trial. For all of you involved in the clinical trial or that have done a clinical trial, know how much is a pain at the moment to recruit patient, to enroll patient, and how much it costs each patient enrolled in a trial. So this process is absolutely more efficient and have a specific need. You need to start. So if you never start this development, you're never going to be able to have a model enough mature. So you can't expect the application of in-silico clinical trials since the beginning going to solve all your problems, but this is something that is going better and better and better. I will make an example many times when I am in meeting with people talking about this topic, linked to technology like the ABS in the car. The ABS in the car now are working very, very well. They are able to manage very different road conditions from rain, snow, ice, and so on. At the beginning, of course, it wasn't like that, and it's a technology that has been invented more than 50 years ago. Now everyone is trusting the sensor of the ABS, the digital evidence created to decide how to brake, how to release a brake in a very critical condition. And no one would switch off the ABS on a road where there is some problem, or anyway, or on a highway, because you know that it works very well. But it was a long pathway. So it's not at the beginning the ABS were working like that. So in a very different context, like the clinical trial, we need to start, and we need to think about this augmented clinical trial to be part of a normal process that in the future will be able to require less patient enrolled in the patient clinical trial, because they will be combined with part in silico. So how we as InSilicoTrials are approaching this opportunity? First of all, looking at the scenario where we have basically two kind of stakeholder. We have the user, so we mentioned before, a company, a lot of company, we have researcher, the need is, or we need clinician that use models in their daily activity. On the other side, we have research centers developing models, but that at the moment don't have an easy way to provide this model to the market, because a model is a piece of software that need many times also to be combined with another engine, with the solver. This works both in the medical device area, where you're going to use solver like ANSYS or Siemens or Dassault or other solver or open source like OpenFOAM, Codaster, that are available to run your model. But it's happened also in the pharma area, where you're going to use model engine like non-MEM or other engine to solve your model. Then we have model simulation company that develop specific model on specific aspects, and hospital that create data sets on patient that could be transformed in virtual data sets for virtual patient. And there are infrastructure. Nowadays, the cloud gives you the opportunity, with the example done before, to use a very powerful machine that in a couple of hours are able to provide results that otherwise with internal computer would take days or weeks. Or that in the future, once you create what is called design of experiments, so you launch many simulations at the same time, or you run, you say, an in-silico clinical trial where you have many virtual patients combined with many different variation of the device, could require a lot of computational capacity. Cloud is helping on that, because you can have elastic system that make a server pop up on demand, and in a very short time you can have significant results. So basically, InSilicoTrials decided to create this platform where it's possible for our partners to provide a piece of the entire system needed by the user, to let us to say put together, integrate this component in a way that on this side it will be very easy for a company or researcher or clinician to use these aspects, this component, this model, without the need to have a license on their computer, without the need to know how to build a model, without the need to know how to validate a model, but with the specific opportunity to use parameterized model, where the specific input are solved through the platform. So the company providing the information, is going to find the model online or select from the library, provide their own model, set input parameter, run the simulation in the cloud, analyze the results with a specific report, or design different scenario to launch repetitively the simulation to obtain the results needed. So the web-based platform is going to be used for the creation of outcome from modeling simulation, but also for the delivery of what is called software as a medical device. So the application of models in the hand of physician that will need a tool that need to be classified as software as a medical device by European and US regulation. So in the process we have shown you before, you've seen we have defined this kind of workflow. So we are working with partners and many of them are in the VPH community. So we start from tool evaluation, then we define what are the requirements for the integration. Then we define together the contract and pricing for the market, and then we integrate this on the platform. Once the model is on the platform, and at the moment we're working more on project-based than just a pure catalog, the use of this model by the companies or other researchers is going to create a fee that is going to be used by the partner to have a monetization of the activity done. To sustain this this workflow, but also especially this initial discussion with the researcher, they want to provide their own model on the platform. We have sponsored the first VPHi InSilicoTrials industry prize at Saragossa with a 1,000 euro prize for the best thesis on a model that has a industrial impact. And we are also promoting the next prize for 2019. We have seen the different aspects of technology, models, also business model. That's very important because this is what let the model go to market, and the regulatory approach in the US. But in Europe, there is something new called MDR, the Safe for Medical Device Regulation, that is linked to the medical devices approved or used in Europe from 2020. So it's a significant change from the past. The new requirement explicitly mention clinical evidences. So it would be needed to create evidences for the approval or reapproval of medical devices. And this is going to be applied also for medical devices already on the market after a grace period of some years. What is very interesting is that for the first time, we are seeing that in Europe, in this regulation, there is a reference to simulation, modeling simulation, where simulated use of a product is in the same article where they mention engineering, laboratory, or animal test for the evaluation, or computer modeling linked to the requirement to be met by notified bodies, who are the organism in Europe that are going to approve the medical device as FDA is doing in the US. So this is a very, very interesting starting point because this is going to generate opportunity for the computer modeling to become part of regulatory approval, not only in US, but also in Europe. In US, they're working from this for many years, and in September 2016, they have released this very interesting, very important document on the guidance on how to report the outcome of computational modeling studies in medical device to FDA, because they was receiving different kind of report, one of 10 page, one of 1,000 page, developed with different structure and logic, and they said, please provide us at least, or we suggest you to use this kind of structure, so it will be easier for you to create the report. It will be easier for us review it. So let's go on a couple of case studies just to show how the application of model simulation can be used by industry. So the first project I want to describe is a project that we are working on with FDA and with ANSYS, and it's linked to the MRI safety for implantable metal devices. There is a problem once you develop a medical device that has a metal inside. Under MRI, you're going to have a risk of heating, and if there is a heat of 2, 3, 5 degrees, potentially it's not a problem. If the heat is higher, you will run into problem if the heating is 20 degrees. So you can see here how the system works. So we have this cage and with a model developed by FDA, powered in terms of a solver by a tool by ANSYS called HFSS. And in the platform, in the Silico MRI platform, the user can provide simple information. So they don't need to be the developer of the model. They don't need to be the people who have validated it. They just need to provide some simple information about the context of use, what is the design of the device, and what are the geometry, material properties, and so on of the device. Then everything runs in the cloud, and the outcome after a couple of hours is a graphical visualization in 3D of the potential heating of this device, and also the result is structured inside the report that is structured following the regulation guidelines we've seen before. So all this process requires a couple of hours. So the opportunity here is that companies are able to evaluate the MRI safety of implantable medical device, not at the end of the development process, but in every stage. Also, for example, at the beginning, where they are considering different options, and they want to see if different options that correspond to some mechanical optimization could have some impact on the MRI safety. Another example is the application in the orthopedics field. So while you are developing a product, you have different design, and you want to understand what could be the application of this device into a virtual population of interest, for example. So you are building a hip implant that need to be good also for women with osteoporosis, and you will have so density of the bone that will change, or you want to see how it's going to work under a specific stress condition or fatigue condition. Once the models with these specific tests are available, the number of input required are quite limited, because the user don't have to develop their own model. They don't have to work with the university providing the design and waiting for the feedback, but the university itself or the research centers that have developed the model is able to provide this service to company in a very, very easy and to a certain extent automatic way. So we could add many options here, but as you can see, in a process like that, the repetitivity of this testing, thanks to the fact that there is significant potential capacity, the simulation is very fast. The cost also at the end is very limited to traditional bench testing, where you have to produce your device and then go to a lab and test it. Here, you can really speed up the process because you can understand in which direction to go in every moment of the development. This is an example of a specific application in the orthopedic area we have developed with a company, with a customer. It is a high tibial osteotomy implant, and it's very interesting because the application of the simulation here has been done in different moments. So first of all, to define the design of the custom plate based on the geometry of the knee of the patient. Then applying muscle forces to see if the design and if the surgery, defined also in this case by the simulation, would have a specific outcome that would be better than a traditional already marketed product. What is interesting is that this device is going to be 3D printed. So through this process, we have defined the surgery, define a first design of the device, optimize the design following muscle forces, and with the results in terms of stress, we have been able to change this design to make it better for the patient in a way that is going to be 3D printed specifically and on a patient-specific application. So here there is not a limitation of the model simulation, the pure test or mechanical test of the product, but it's an entire workflow where model simulation is applied many times. So what are the operational model where, as we have seen, you can apply the modeling simulation? In the medtech, we have seen you can make and support device development or validation. So you upload the prosthesis, run the simulation, and then you get the results. If you are a physician or surgeon, you could have modeling simulation that help you as a decision support system. For example, in device selection or device positioning, because starting from images with patient-specific evaluation of different prostheses or different implant, you can obtain the results that supports you in a way that otherwise would require a lot of time or significant experiences. So this is, as a decision support system, something that could help physician to do better than job, or to have something that is like a spell check forward applied to what they're doing. Once we go to another hot topic in the orthopedics area, for example, so the 3D printing, we could have the modeling simulation that work as a design check. So we could test if the design of the specific patient design medical device is good or not, or there could be some problem in terms of stress or strain or other kind of testing fatigue and so on. That would be very hard to do on the single specific implant. But model and simulation from this point of view could be a very, very interesting safety check of the design implant also before printing it. Let's jump a little on another phase of the life science, or another area, that is the pharma part. So is this possible only in medical device? No, this is possible also in what is called MID3, so model informed drug development and discovery and development. And so this area of application of modeling simulation in the drugs development that is quite commonly used in big companies all over the world is not so commonly used by mid or little-sized companies. So there are significant problems to use this kind of tool, this kind of knowledge by company that has not significant pharmacometrician team inside their own R&D, because the knowledge here is very, very critical. So how this can be partly solved? Providing companies with models, with simulation, that they don't have to develop, they don't have to validate, but because it's already been done, and it has been done in terms of validation many times, also from the clinical point of view, and there are many simulations like this around the world, but this company need to use it. So they need to have the opportunity to use the system to test the specific problem that could be in the cardiac safety, or in the pharmacokinetics to reach the brain, so going again through the brain barrier, or in many other aspects of application that could require something that could be standardized. There is another specific application that is the decision support system while you are developing your clinical trial or in a preclinical activity for scientists that work in preclinical, where the model can complement the in vitro result, providing comparison with other results of other trial, or defining better the protocol for the specific trial that the company is going to run. Or if we go at the end of the development of the product, another very interesting application is to use the model, use simulation for individualized dosing. So where for a physician would be very complex to evaluate, considering genomic and physiology and a lot of other aspects, lab results, what would be the best dosing for the patient. In these models could help a lot, because this could be a very, very quick support or benchmark to what would be the decision of the physician. The application of modeling simulation in the drug development is very significant. Is one of the most, let's say, extensive application probably at the moment in the life science. So starting from target selection and validation up to life cycles management and therapeutic use. We're not going into this detail. Maybe this could be a topic of a future webinar if there will be interest from some of you to talk about application of modeling simulation in detail in drugs. But as you can see here, the applications are really very interesting and different. So from target authorization, study design optimization, up to dose and schedule selection and label recommendation, up to patient population selection between different kind of groups. So it's an impressive opportunity for a company that is not already using this kind of approach. But what is needed is that you have to combine different models that are providing information in different area in different stage, and it's very hard that with one single model we're able to do everything. So that's the reason we think that it's important to put together models and then to give the opportunity to the final user to correlate them. A very quick reference to another activity linked to the 3D printing I was mentioning before. We have acquired a company called Concept in March this year, that had more than 2,000 users in 3 years, around more than 8,000 simulations around the world, using a couple of open source code like Codaster and OpenFOAM. And we decided to make this acquisition because we decided to develop a specific platform for the validation of 3D printing design. This is what Concept was traditionally doing, so application engineering field, like rotor and so on, with creation of results, quite graphical, quite interesting. So we said there is a need, there will be a significant need in the market for the 3D printing of a medical device. So why don't we use this engine to create a workflow to test it? Because there is a completely different approach once you are creating traditional products from the 3D printing. So here we're talking about use of models in an innovative area in life science. So 3D printing is quite innovative, and we are talking about innovation in innovative work in terms of helping this approach to become more safe and more common to be used. So 3D print engineers need a very different approach and knowledge, let me say, from traditional designers. In the traditional activity, you go, through the traditional university courses, once you are working in 3D printing, you need to practice because this is something new. And the training require the practice through activity that need a lot of money to have available 3D printer, a lot of time and cost to create tests, and there is limited availability of printer for classroom. So this is not something so efficient in terms of testing. But to print real object, now you have to test them in the real world. So in the lab we have mentioned before. But with modeling simulation, what you're able to do is to check and test virtual object in the virtual world without printing. So without the need to go in a lab to print something, wait hours and to see if that specific bone or titanium part is going to take the place of a bone for an oncological patient, is going to resist to some solicitation, some fatigue, and so on, because you will be able to do it directly online. So this in terms of approach, and this is quite open as a project at the moment. We are developing this concept of training expert in 3D printing, where virtual 3D printing, where simulation are able to provide specific validation and the opportunity that specific design could become a real product, reducing investment, production waste, and time and material constraint. This is the workflow that at the end would create a product virtually tested, starting from the login, simulation case, upload the 3D design, select printing material, apply loads and constraint and results. And this is happening online through a web interface, so you don't need to be an engineer to make it, but you need to be, for example, a biomechanical engineer in a hospital that maybe knows something about finite element simulation, but is not an expert in terms of creation of the model, but is able to use something to test if what he has designed is going to work or not. This is another example of activity where models and simulation were combining. So simulation of nasal administration of drug powder to optimize the device design and drug formulation. We're combining a flow of the drugs and evaluating the deposition of the here or the absorption. We are able combine this fluid dynamics simulation with pharmacometrics simulation to see how much we have to dose this powder for the patient and how much of this is going to reach the specific organ that the drug is targeting. Last slide, and then we will jump into the question and answer. We are here mentioning Microsoft Azure document guidelines for the GXP. GXP stands for whatever you want to put instead of X, so GMP, like good manufacturing practice, or good laboratory practice, or good clinical practice. That is what is applied into the development and the conduction of clinical trial. So Microsoft, with its cloud Azure, has released these guidelines April this year, and we were very happy to be selected as the reviewer from the industry of this document before the release. ProMeditech was the name of the InSilicoTrials until April this year, so we have changed the name at that time. But as you can see, we are mentioned with a very important company from J&J, Merck, AstraZeneca, Roche, GSK, and others, because our approach in the use of cloud for modeling and simulation linked to the application of GXP, or I would say what we call good simulation practice, so GSP. That is something that we're discussing with many stakeholders around the world, not only Europe, but also in the US, for example, with FDA. So we think that the good simulation practice and what we are doing to make a modeling simulation to be used in a more structured, more validated, and more significant way in the industry is something very important to let the modeling simulation in the future to be considered at the same level of what is now the clinical trial or other part of R&D. So we need, as a community, and this is our also effort as InSilicoTrials, we need to work on modeling simulation in a way that we provide outcomes that are reliable, trustable, that are validated, and we think that work with researchers and providing models through to the industry through a web platform where the flows are structured, the flows are validated, are secure. We are making one step in this direction, and we hope that with this activity we can inspire the community, the research community, to not keep their model on their computer, but to consider the opportunity to provide this element to the industry, because they really need it. And one, there is a model that can be used by someone else. You save a lot of time, a lot of money, because they don't have to develop that again. And if people will use more and more model, there will be a significant impact for all the industry in terms of demand from the market, and also with potential maybe to leverage some very interesting tools like AI is promising now, but that need something as a starting point, as a modeling simulation could be. So I finished my presentation. This is our offices in Italy and in the US. We have also an office in the Netherlands. So feel free to reach us for every request, comment, question. But of course now open for to your question.
Thank you very much, Luca, for the interesting and nice presentation. Now we have two questions. The first one is from Charles Majoy, that has the microphone, I think.
Yes, thank you, Luca. It's a very interesting presentation.
Thank you.
So I only wonder, how do you verify whether the results of an InSilico trial are correct? So do you always need to confirm it in a patient trial, or how do you proceed?
Well, there is the opportunity to work not only with the confirmation of the running clinical trial, but also you can compare the results with publication with other outcome of activity done in the past. So, for example, we're working on a couple of projects now where we are creating the model not on a running clinical trial, but on a clinical trial that run in the past by this company and by other researcher on the same drug. So this gives you the opportunity to compare results very quickly, because the data sets are already available or have been published.
Oh yeah, but then when you have a new drug,
in case of a new drug, as I said, as I was showing in my slide, was the application in InSilicoTrials that increase in terms of value. You have to do the best as possible at the beginning, and then start to compare these aspects with the outcome of in vitro application, in vitro testing, clinical testing, and so on. So it's something that once it is the first step, you have to acquire. There are some models. like for example, model for cardiac safety or others that are using evaluation of property of molecular properties or chemical properties of a drug. So some results also on new drugs could come from already available information. But of course, the answer is quite generic, so it depends on every new product. Okay,
thank you.
Okay.
Okay, the other question is from Thierry Marshall, and he asks, Luca, what will be the place of InSilico in the future? Do you think that most drugs and medical devices will be designed and approved using some InSilico approach within 5 to 10 years?
For sure, in the future, the use of this technology will complement a lot the traditional approach. And the complement could become a significant part of it. Consider that 95% of new drugs are not approved, so they don't reach the approval phase. And the approval of a new drug is 12 years. And a lot of money is spent also on medical device. So by the effort that we're doing now, the community can do on this, the creation of tools is very important to reach at least 50% of use of modeling simulation and traditional approach in the approval of medical devices in the next few years. What is going to happen in the future will depend, of course, also by how this community is going to support industry in this pathway. Because we have to, as I said, democratize the use. So we have to increase the number of users everywhere. Otherwise, if it's going to be a too close community, too strict community, it's going to be a problem because a lot of people will not apply it only because they don't know that they can apply it, or they will not know how to do it, or will be too complex to do it for them, or too expensive to do for them.
We have another question from Simon Perat.
Hello, hi. Thank you for the presentation. It was very interesting. It's not clear to me if you are already out there in the market, or are you presenting a plan of what you're going to do? Are you accepting clients, customers? What is your where are you at in your development phase of this InSilicoTrials.com?
We are already on the market. If you go on InSilicoTrials.com, you will see some aspect there, also some model available. Concept, for example, is already on the market, and we are working with customers. At the moment, we're not working in a way that you go there and as a self-service you select your model and you use it, but we are working basically on a specific project, because also the approach from every single customer is starting to use that is different. So we want to complement with our expertise, with our knowledge. So we have people that is head of the drug development, orthopedics, cardiovascular, imaging, and we're working with the customer on the creation of this project where there is a significant use of technology combined with expertise. But we are doing that already. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Also, we are working with the researcher to add their own simulation into our workflows.
And Nils Gutzen has a question.
Yeah, hello Luca, thanks for your presentation from Nils Gutzen from Rielsen. Interesting stuff. I'm also thinking about this stuff a lot, and it's very motivating to see what's potentially possible in the future and the steps are taking. Thinking about a clinical trial currently, this is really something very complicated, where you have CROs, where you have regulated processes, where you have standards, you need to write protocols, select patients that fit into your clinical trial, etc., and then expand your patient population, etc. How do you think all these regulations will be translated into something that is totally virtually? For instance, also selecting the right variety of patients, virtual patients, etc. There's a lot of things to be considered. That is not just one simulation, I guess. There are maybe hundreds of different patients you need to consider. But how do you think about all these things? And do you consider yourself in the future also kind of a CRO?
Yeah, well, basically we are going to be a sort of digital CRO. Because when I mentioned these three aspects, so regulation, science, and technology, we are using very powerful resources like cloud, software from many providers, models from many research partners we have, and virtual patient we are creating working with biobanks and hospitals and so on. So these are technical aspects, but also we are working on the regulation. For example, I am a member of the cloud security group by EMA, and there is this discussion on how to use the cloud to support life science development, something going on also in the US with FDA. And of course, as it is highly regulated environment, to work on this aspect. So that was the reason I showed this GXP guideline by Microsoft is very important. We can think that modeling simulation will achieve significant results if we don't think at modeling simulation in healthcare as good clinical practice is doing in the clinical trial. So if we want that what you just said become a significant reality, we have to consider the good simulation practices apply to modeling simulation, and good clinical practices is putting a level of heterogeneity on one side, or homogeneity in terms of approach to the clinical trial. And once we start to think in this direction, probably we are going to generate the right pathway to combine all the elements you have mentioned to have digital CRO, or to have a CRO that will manage these aspects.
Okay, thank you.
Another question from Jordi Cano said, excellent presentation. Is there a way for the users to provide feedback to the platform, to provide information about the performance of the models that were used for their personal data?
Yes, it's going to be one of the features that will be available. At the moment, of course, as we are working on a project base, we are receiving this feedback from directly. We are creating this feedback directly with the customer, but in the future, the idea is that once there will be a model available, the people will be able to use it, also to provide some comment on that element.
I think that there are not any questions. Thank you very much for attending the webinar, and thank you very much to Luca for the very nice presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Happy to see all of you here.